Yes, hello and welcome to the Fantasy Wildcard Dynasty Show. Lads, we are into April, and you know what happens in April? It's the NFL draft. It is officially draft month. That is incredibly exciting. And what else is also exciting is welcoming the two studs on, that is Mags and James. Start with you, James. How are you doing, mate?
Yeah, great, doing great. Great to be back on again and to get sort of up to date again with the rookies, talk about some rookies and maybe some vets and stuff like that. And yeah, as you say, draft month is always exciting. Was it 3.5 weeks, something like that away now? So yeah, looking forward to it.
Cannot wait. And Mags, how are you doing, mate? Because you were a bit under the weather last time we spoke. Your voice was cracking a bit. Is it better now?
Yeah, we're all good. It was a bit of a stag do kind of long sickness that I was struck down with, but I'm ready. I'm good to go. The NFL season has officially kicked off as well. We're past the illegal tampering. We're going through a bit of free agency, and I'm ready for the Chiefs to step it up and go step one of the three-peat 2.0. Here we go.
Yeah. Shout out to Lewis Wood this week, getting married over the weekend. Part of the Wildcard family. Well done, Lewis. Actually love that guy, and congratulations. Yeah. But tonight, lads, we're going to start with a few questions because we're going to have more of a chat tonight, a bit of a theory that we have got a topic. But I want to start off with doing my Dynasty quarterback rankings. And a lot of people have pointed out that I may be too high on Drake May. So I want to quickly get your thoughts on me ranking Drake May at quarterback 8. So do you feel like that is too high for you guys?
Not for me, mate. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, you kind of look at the names around Drake May that could be around quarterback 8. For me, I'm like, who I know people love them some Kyler Murray, and people love them some CJ Stroud and maybe even Caleb Williams. But I mean, that's the only real arguments, and for me, they're all in the same tier. I don't see how people could get really mad about Drake May being quarterback 8, mate. I think that's just about where I would have him as well. So not for me. I think you're just right.
Yeah, I think that's around consensus now anyway, surely. I think there's maybe 7 that you could argue are definitely ahead of him. We could reel them off, but after that, as Mag said, after that it's kind of one tier, and then pick whoever you want at the top of the tier. And if you want Drake May, then that's fair enough. I think, it's pretty flat. Obviously, May, Jordan. I think you might maybe not mention Jordan Love there. But they're all in the same. After like the Mahomes, Herberts, take your pick. Really, I think top 8 is fine.
Yeah, he's 22 years old as well. Like, come on, what are we doing here?
Yeah, I mean, as long as you have Jaden Daniels ranked above as the rookie quarterback 1 from last year, hey James, that's all that matters, really, isn't it?
Exactly.
I was just digging into stats about, helping me rank. And I just think there's so much upside with Drake May. And I have got him sandwiched between Justin Herbert and Jordan Love. Herbert just above, Jordan Love slightly below, just because I think there's more upside with Drake May, just of what he managed to do last year with literally no weapons. This is before Stephon Diggs even got moved to New England. So that helps. I think they're going to address that in the draft. I think they're going to go wide receiver fairly early, whether it be Travis Hunter, whether it be like an early round 2 pick. Obviously, they address the O-line as well. So I am all aboard the Drake May hype train. And I have a feeling that he could explode next year. If they give him competent weapons and that O-line can hold up, just with his rushing ability, I think he averaged over 42 yards a game last year. I think he could slightly go bonkers. So just had to throw that one out there just to make sure that wasn't too high and pick your smart brains.
Am I the only one that Stephon Diggs, Ali, just while you're there? I think Stephon Diggs is like one stub toe away from going full Antonio Brown. I don't know why. I just think he's teetering on the edge. I think we might see another Antonio Brown moment at the pages this year with Stephon Diggs here, where he just waves goodbye. Like I just have a feeling
he's certainly on that trajectory, right? Where he's a little bit of a diva. Well, quite a bit of a diva. He's been on some good teams. He's now taken a bit of a payday to be on paper, which should be a bad team. And yeah, it could be a complete disaster. But we will dive into our topic tonight, which is called Stick and Pick or Flip. So basically, we're looking at the rookie picks. So I'm going to give the lads a choice of, do they rather stick with the 101 and think about the value that has, or would you rather flip for a veteran that I think is valued similarly? But before that, because we have had a couple of shows on the rookies, just quickly, I'll start with you, James. Just sum up where you are right now with this rookie draft class. Maybe compare it to the last couple of years, because there's certainly some studs in some positions, and it's, for me, definitely it's different to say the last couple of years. So how are you addressing it this year?
So I think we all kind of know like the makeup of this draft, where it's very running back heavy, right? And there's not, outside of maybe one quarterback, we're not really happy with taking too many early on. And then there's some sort of solid wide receivers, but there's no one that is really as exciting as previous years. But I think the main sort of difference in previous years is that real elite tier at the top. But once you get past sort of the top, I don't know how many you want to say, maybe 4 or 5 picks, it feels fairly similar to previous years. Maybe if you drop down a bit further and you're at the back of the first or in the second round, I don't really see too much of a difference between those guys this year and last year. But yeah, it's just sort of that elite at the top where we haven't got a Neighbors or a Marvin Harrison Jr. or a Jaden Daniels, have we? But you obviously, you never know what's going to happen. But yeah, it certainly feels like once you get that top bit, there's certainly a difference to last year and maybe the year before. But after that, I don't see too much of a difference. So everyone kind of maybe might be dampening it, sort of putting it down a bit too much, and sort of devaluing the pick maybe too much. I'm not sure.
Mags?
There's 7 guys for me that appear to be pulling out as like the clear kind of top 7. This has happened before. After the draft, that's probably sadly going to go down, because one of those guys is going to end up in a situation that we don't like, and it's going to whittle down to maybe like 5 players we are really, really happy with. This is by far, and I think it's because of the nature of the class where there's so many running backs, the draft, which, hey, this month, boys, can't wait. That's going to really, really shake up things. We're going to see players that we thought were locked in to round 1. They're just going to fall out of that round completely because of the landing spot. These running backs, there are a lot of them, but there are a lot of teams wanting to run with the committee. Someone's going to get, Braylon Allen here and end up behind a Breece Hall, or someone's going to go to the Colts behind a Jonathan Taylor. Something bad's going to happen to a couple of these running backs, and they're going to slip down. And then it's going to be an interesting conversation. Do you take the talent? Do you take the landing spot? What's going to happen? I can't wait. I've said before, this is not the best class that we've seen in a while. Might be the most interesting, though.
Yeah, I would agree with that statement. I think this isn't a generational class. I don't think if you loaded up with 2025 picks that you're going to set your team up to succeed for the next 5 years. I think this is more of a fill-in. So if you're looking for a running back or a couple of running backs to put you over the edge, this class is perfect. Mm-hmm. The only other thing I'll add is I was quite excited looking back probably about a month ago now and looking at rookie mocks. Obviously, that's not the be-all and end-all of where they're going to end up, but the values were all over the place. Whereas you dig into a mock draft now, and other than a couple of wild cards where you look at Travis Hunter, it could be picked from the 102 to the 206, could be anywhere. And then I'll throw in Jackson Dart as well, because a lot of people really don't like him. Some people really like him. If he goes first round, I think he'd be a first round lock. Other than that, it's really chalky and really consensus, the top 12 picks now. So in that respect, I think it is similar to last year, but just with the caveat that it is at different positions, whereas like tight end strong, running back strong, wide receiver weak, quarterback is exceptionally weak. So yeah, we're going to move on to the main part of tonight's show, because we could spend hours talking about this rookie class, but I want to talk about it from a value point of view, because I've had so many questions asked about, I've got this pick. Who do you think is going to be there? I need a quarterback. Do you think I can get one at this position? So I thought I'd come up with some scenarios where there'll be some situations where you're a rebuilder, you're a contender, or you're a middle of the road team, which is what you face in real life, and talk about the value of and who you could end up with that pick. So starting with the 101, I'll come to you first, Mags. I found a player that's similar in value, and obviously a lot of the time, I'd probably say 85% of the time, if you've got the 101, you're technically, the worst team from the previous year. So Ashton Janty is the consensus 101, but it's not ideal to take a running back if you're on a rebuilding team. So in this scenario, we're looking at a rebuilder. I can offer you value-wise CJ Stroud for that, your 101. Is that something that you would be interested in? Do you think if you've got the 101 that you should take Ashton Janty regardless because of the, how good he is? Or do you think you would try and flip that? Say you're a rebuilder and you're looking for a young quarterback. So would CJ Stroud fit that mold for you?
Yeah, if you're rebuilding, you should take this deal. It's pretty black and white for me here. Ashton Janty, in the nicest way, this might be the highest Ashton Janty's value ever goes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Think about how high this hype train is right now. There's not a lot for him to go. And even we see the best running backs, they have a lifespan of a below average quarterback. Usually these quarterbacks get time in the NFL. Running backs, obviously a lot more short-lived. I would take CJ Stroud here 9 times out of 10 if I had the 1-1 and I was the worst team in the league. It was one that was earned by me. I probably don't have quarterbacks. I need to rebuild this team. If I take Janty here, there's a chance that he's just going to be wasted. He's going to win me games that I don't really want to be winning. And I'm going to end up with worse picks. And I'm never going to be able to rebuild this team properly. So if I'd shopped him out and this was, the top offer I got, guys like CJ Stroud, guys like Caleb Williams in and around that same bracket we talked about just below Drake May, I'm going to take them 90 to 100% of the time if I'm in a rebuilder.
Yeah, and James, similarly, are you a fan of CJ Stroud? Because obviously year one CJ Stroud was pretty immense. Not stats wise, fantasy it wasn't amazing, but I think it surprised us from he was the consensus quarterback 3 of that class. He came in and he looked amazing compared to Richardson and Bryce Young. So what's your thoughts on CJ Stroud, and would you be taking that offer if you had the 101?
Yeah, I don't think I'd say I'm Stroud's biggest fan in fantasy, but I would still take the deal. Like you said, the rookie season was great. He was never really, he was scoring decent numbers of rookie season fantasy wise, but I think I looked up and he's around the QB 10 in sort of points per game, which is good. You probably would take that. Obviously that didn't happen last year. I can't remember. I don't know what he was last year, but he obviously had a little bit of a drop. He at one point he was sort of the Dynasty QB 3. You look back a year ago, sort of, yeah, maybe even higher. Yeah, QB1 at one point, but I mean that was nonsense, really. Realistically, he was a QB3, right? It was never going to be above Allen and Lamar or whoever it was at QB2 at that point, really. Which is obviously way too high. He was overvalued last year. He's maybe sort of undervalued a little bit this year, but it depends. I don't really think there's many kind of team builds where I wouldn't take that deal. I'd have to be like a really, really strong contender to take Janty over CJ Stroud, just because the value, just for me, that quarterback that's locked in for 10 years or whatever, compared to the running back who you just don't know, could be 3-4 years in his second contract. He's not the same player. So yeah, definitely Stroud for me.
Yeah, I think similarly. I think it's easy to take Janty and say, "I'll look for quarterback another way. Perhaps go for someone a bit lower than CJ Stroud, trade a second, blah blah blah." But we saw poor old Jonathan Brooks, the running back 1 from 2024. He's hardly graced the field, and I mean, look at his value. Obviously, we've not got the injury past for Ashton Janty that Brooks had. But it can go so wrong so quickly for running back. He could go to the Raiders at pick 6. they were the worst rushing team in the NFL last year by a mile. They couldn't get anything going on the ground. Could he make up for that? Would if you saw him struggle for the first half of the season, how his value would drop on that team? So I think even if you don't like CJ Stroud, I think he's got that insulated value where he's going to set you up at least to start rebuilding in the right way rather than taking that running back. So unanimous.
Let's whisper it as well, because we don't really want to put it out there, but he's a running back. He's probably going to get injured.
I would put money on it. Yes.
Yeah. Everyone's favorite running back has had an injury at some stage. It almost certainly will happen to Janty. Quarterbacks get injured too, but it doesn't matter anywhere near as much.
Yeah. We're talking lifespan of could be 6-7 years for a running back. If you're good, if you're lucky, quarterback, CJ Stroud, I think should be locked in unless he just is horrendous for the next 3 years. Going to be locked in for at least 8 years on that team, or probably get a second chance on another team at worst. So, yep. We'll move on to the 102. So in our latest rookie mock, we had Amari and Hampton go at 102. So you've got to have that thought in your mind. Similarly ranked player would be Jackson Smith and Jigba. So in this scenario, you're not a rebuilder. You'll say middle of the road team. You didn't make the playoffs, but you also weren't the second worst team. You traded for this pick and it ended up you getting the 102. So James, is that something that you'd like to? Would you move off the 102 straight up for JSN?
Yeah, without going into detail about the sort of structure of the roster, it's more exciting to sort of use the pick, isn't it, than trade it away. I probably would be looking to trade it away, maybe for a couple of players rather than just a JSN straight up. I guess that value is probably about fair. We don't really know what's going to happen in Seattle this year, but and obviously we don't know where Hampton's going to end up either. So I think I'd really struggle with that in terms of deciding. I do like JSN, I do like Hampton, so I'd kind of be looking at to move the pick before it's been made. And hope that someone else out there really likes whoever they're going to pick at 102, rather than it being a locked-in running back kind of thing. Maybe there's someone that really needs a quarterback, and maybe they want to look to take Cam Ward there. But on the scenario you sort of explained, where I'm sort of middle of the road, probably looking to trade it rather than use it, just because you might be able to get more value for it. But it's difficult.
Yeah, Mags, similarly, say you got the 102 and middle of the road team, no real weakness. You've got you've got TJ Hawkinson as your first tight end. You've got a few good running backs, wide receivers, okay, quarterbacks, fine. Would you be looking to pick a rookie and go for that, rookie, hoping that the value rises? Or would you be looking to ship off that 102 for straight up player, or would you try and possibly trade back?
In the initial deal, I'm taking JSN there again most of the time. Again, because of the exact wording, middle of the road team, I'm only really attacking running backs when I'm sure, like real sure, that I can win the championship this year. Then I'm going full on gung ho, trying to get running backs. And even then, the more I play Dynasty, the more I'm kind of realizing I think draft picks are overrated. I really do. I think people go absolutely crazy, and the players you can get in return, like solid players that are going to produce, go back and look at your first round draft pick from 3 years ago, and you'll just laugh. You'll laugh at the players that are in there going where they are. JSN for me is a top 10 Dynasty wide receiver. If I can get that for one pick, one dice roll, I'll take it almost every single time. Then I can add into my team. Then I can start to think about, right, am I ready to contend with JSN? What can I do? Where can I go? With the 102, if I was to trade it away, on like a contending team, I'm going to go and look to get Saquon Barkley and a little bit extra as well, and just be sure of it instead of taking a bit of a dice roll. If I'm ready to contend, I don't care how old my running back is, as long as they can finish the season. That's good enough for me.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there. I think if I'm a middle of the road team, if I'm trading away the 102, I want a player that I think still has the ability to ascend in value, and I think JSN obviously risen, value wise immensely last year by taking over and being the wide receiver one in Seattle. Now with DK Metcalf not in the way, I think he's probably around wide receiver 10. I think he's probably approaching his ceiling, but I think there probably is a little bit more room to go depending on how good Sam Darnold is. He's very young, so he would be the sort of the typical stereotype, the fit that I would like trading away the 102. I wouldn't trade the 102 for an older prospect if I'm middle of the road team. Like you say, you'd have to be a contender in that instance. So we'll move on to 103, where this again, middle of the road team in our rookie mock, we took Tech McMillan here. Would you trade the 103 straight up if you had this offer in your inbox, Mags, for Breece Hall? Does it fit the narrative of someone that you trade for? Because he's obviously younger than Saquon Barkley, as you mentioned, with the 102. Would you trade for Breece Hall? Is he someone that you're targeting? What are your thoughts on Breece Hall this offseason?
Man, this is so tricky. Like I said to you before we started recording, Ali, it's like you've done a stellar job of putting these veteran names against these picks, because it is super difficult, because we know that Breece Hall is a really, really good player when he's on form, when he's playing. We just haven't seen it consistently from him. Injuries have really, really held him back. I don't trust that turf over at the Jets at all, to help out with any kind of injuries going forward. So unless they have only away games going forward, I'm really worried about Breece Hall's longevity in the league. Unfortunately for him, at the same time, well, I just told you I think the rookie picks are overrated. So it's a real conundrum. Middle of the road team again, you said, Ali, I believe, did you?
Yeah.
This is where I might be tempted to go, man, I might take a roll on Ted McMillan here. Again, we had the caveat, where is he going to land? What's going to happen? But I'm just hugely concerned about Breece Hall. What is he going to be, 20? He's not actually that old, is he? He's going to be 24 when the season starts, is he? Which isn't ancient, but in running back years, it's getting there. It's getting there. So I think I might roll the dice on Ted McMillan, but it's one of those ones where I'm like, I don't like saying out loud.
Yeah. So similarly for me, just quickly, I think if it wasn't you had to take Ted McMillan, I think I'm definitely the 103 pick, with the thoughts that you've got flexibility where, if Hampton gets pick number 2, you're then choosing between quarterback, wide receiver, vice versa. If Tech goes, you can then pick running back or quarterback. James, are you the same, or are you a big Breece Hall fan?
I think Breece Hall, he's a really difficult player to sort of put a value on, because as Mags kind of touched on the previous one, if you're only really targeting running backs if you're competing, right? But Breece Hall's value is kind of so high for a running back that isn't like producing elite scores for you. So his value doesn't really match what he's going to bring to your team right now. And as a running back, that he just doesn't make sense to target on a team unless, well, I don't know what scenario does make sense to target, because if you're on a contender, he's not someone you're going to go out and target. You're going to go out and target someone cheaper that you know is going to actually score points for you this season. And if you're not on a contender, then you shouldn't be really going out to buy a running back. So he's really difficult. I think you're kind of stuck with him if you've got him. And if you haven't got him, I don't really know what scenario you're going to be going out to try and buy him. So yeah, I definitely think 103, that flexibility that you just said, you can sort of pick whatever position you want, your need. And yeah, you might end up getting a running back at 103 that actually, for a contender, is better for you than Breece Hall anyway this year and the next couple of years, just because you don't know what's going to happen with the Jets and Justin Fields at quarterback and new sort of coaching situation. So yeah, I'd stay with that flexibility of the 103.
Well, we might as well call him Breece Hall then in this instance. Yeah, we'll move swiftly to. I'm going to offer you a better running back, boys. Now, so 104 rookie mock. We took Cam Ward. So this is different. So this is you're on a contender. Come to you first, James. You're on a contender. You got the 104. You traded for it mid-season, but someone hits your inbox and said, "I'll offer you Bucky Irving for your 104." Are you taking that offer?
It's difficult again. I think it's different now. We're talking about a quarterback, but we're talking about a quarterback that we've not seen in the NFL. We've not seen him, like obviously with CJ Stroud. We know not necessarily how good he's going to be fantasy wise, but we know he's in the NFL for a long time, right? So we know we've got that longevity. We can always put him in our lineups. With Cam Ward, we just don't know that yet. So I can sort of see the scenario where you would take the running back over the quarterback. If I'm 100% contender and I have a couple of quarterbacks I'm happy starting, and a third that I can sort of fill in every now and again when I need to, I would take Irving. It's another one where his value is probably as high as it's ever going to be as well, right? If you compare it to just after he was drafted and he was a third round pick for you in your rookie drafts, it seems sort of silly to pay a 104 for him. And maybe you should be targeting someone cheaper. But yeah, if I'm an out-and-out contender, I'm happy to take Irving.
And Mags, you're a contender. The first three picks have been made: Janty, Hampton, McMillan. You're staring at Cam Ward. Perhaps you're a contender. You don't need a quarterback. Would Bucky Irving be someone that you target?
To be honest, what I would actually do here, because I don't have Cam Ward as my 104. That was a terrible pick from one of you two. I'd take Trevion Henderson here all day ahead of Bucky Irving at 104. So that would be my move.
Yeah, I love that. I think you're both wrong because Bucky Irving is going to be the 101, the running back one this year behind that elite offensive line. But no, I think value wise, if you offer me a quarterback, I've got Cam Ward, quarterback, I think 17, or Bucky Irving's the running back, probably 7 in Dynasty. I'm always going to choose the quarterback. But perhaps I would then look for a different trade and say, look, anybody needing a quarterback, trade for this pick, and perhaps I'll go for someone other than Bucky. We're going to fly through these next ones, so I'll just go to one of you. Starting, as you mentioned him there, Mags, Trevion Henderson was the guy that we picked at 105. What a smart pick by that guy. You got the 105. You're a middle of the road team, so you did end up with the 105, and someone offers you Rome Odunze. What is your response to that? Because obviously it was a disappointing rookie season from Rome, but Ben Johnson coming into town. Can Caleb take the next step? They've beefed up the O-line. What's your thoughts on Rome? Is this a move that you would make? Because I know you're a big Trevion guy.
Yeah, man, this is the one I'm most torn on. Because I'm a big Rome Odunze guy as well. I think Rome Odunze is really, really good. He's one of my top buys this year in Dynasty. That's like a proper, it sounds like a cop-out. That's a real, like, proper 50-50 move here where I'm not 100% sure. If I'm a pure contender, give me the juice at running back. If I'm rebuilding, give me the wide receiver. If I'm in the middle of the road, I don't know. Flip a coin. I really, really don't know there, but I'm delighted with either of them in my squad, Ali. I'm sorry I can't give you a real answer. I suppose gun in my head, if you're like, which way are you definitely going to go? Man, I'm a Trevion Henderson guy. I'd take Trevion, I suppose, if I gun to my head. But if I'm rebuilding, I'm taking Rome every time.
Yeah, I think ultimately, I think Rome is well worth the 105, which is probably quite surprising because you probably paid the 107, 108 for him last year. Had a disappointing season, yet he's still probably worth the 105 this year. So I think it's spot on for value. And yeah, I'll probably lean Rome, just the wide receiver who I think can dominate and really increase his value this year. James, I'm going to hit you with this one. The 106, you're a contender because obviously you're always a contender in your dynasty leagues. But perhaps you were lacking at quarterback. Perhaps it was the quarterback that let you down last year. So Someone, obviously not me hitting you up with this offer because I'd never trade him away, but Baker Mayfield lands in your inbox straight up for your 106. Baker Mayfield, top 5 quarterback from last year. Is this a move that you'd happily make, or would you be looking for a different type of player, or would you stick with the rookie?
It's hard to put this value on Baker Mayfield based on what we've seen, obviously, before the last couple of years. But I think he was QB5 last year. So if you're a contender, what more can you sort of ask for from your quarterback? Like, he's not someone that you had to pay really high prices for, and you can start him every week as a QB1. It feels sort of a 106 of mid-first for him feels a lot, but just based on the name and things like that. But if you look at the production and the fact that we know he's going to be in the league for the next few years based on what he's done in Tampa Bay. So if as a contender, unless I've got really loads of other options at quarterback, I'm definitely sort of taking Mayfield there. It feels a stretch, but can't really argue against it. Can
I chip in on this one actually? Because in a league that we're in, Ali, I did pay a first for Baker Mayfield, and our friend Paul Picken called me an idiot. You know what happened, Ali?
What happened?
You know what happened, Ali? This is what happened. This is what happens when you pay a first for Baker Mayfield, ladies and gentlemen. Go out there and do it.
Yeah. As the homer, I don't even need to add on anything to that argument right there. Pay it and end up with a nice big trophy. So we'll get back to you, champion, with the 107. You ended up with a 107. This is an interesting one because the rookie pick would have been Emeka Egbuka. So it's wide receiver, one wide receiver. A wide receiver that's similarly ranked or valued is Devonta Smith, wide receiver from Philadelphia Eagles. Where would you lean on this one, Mags? If you had the 107, you're staring at perhaps Egbuka is the number 1 wide receiver on your board at the time, and someone offers you Devonta Smith straight up for that pick.
Yeah, very similar like projections, I would say, in terms of what you're going to expect fantasy-wise out of these guys. Devonta Smith's been super solid for years. You're never upset about putting him into your team, but he's going to be 27 at the end of the season, so I probably just take the years with Egbuka.
Yeah, I can't argue at all because I think Egbuka is someone that people are undervaluing, perhaps because he's not a flashy wide receiver. There's been more flashy wide receivers come out of Ohio State than Egbuka, so he's probably gone under the radar. And it would be a toss-up. I'd value these very, 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 very similarly. Devonta Smith is... People say he's the wide receiver 2 on the Eagles. I see him more of a 1A, 1B. He has stretches where he's brilliant. Then he seems to fade away a little bit. I'd probably just roll the dice on Egbuka as well. But we'll move down to the 108. Come to you, James. This is a team that is needing a quarterback. And I am offering you Bryce Young, the resurgent Bryce Young from 2024. I know Mags is not taking this deal, but if this is a league where typically, because this does happen in real life, where there will be leagues that value quarterbacks so highly that they will not trade you a starting quarterback. If this was the only quarterback that you could seemingly trade for, say Shedeur Sanders is off the table, he's picked ahead of you. You can get Jackson Dart if you want with the 108, but I think that's probably a little bit of a stretch. Would you be taking this deal for Bryce Young, or would you just look to pick best available and try and address your quarterback another way?
What a roller coaster Bryce Young's dynasty value has been, that we're now back here considering him for a first round pick. I think, a year ago, he was around this value, and then, it only took a couple of weeks into the season, and was he barely even worth a second, really? It wasn't, was he? It was just really difficult to pay a first round pick for someone that you've just seen get benched. If I'm a quarterback needy team, I know you're saying that I'm struggling to buy someone else in this scenario. It's just really tough for me to go out and pay a first for someone that I've just seen be benched. I know he redeemed himself a bit. I don't know if that's really cemented him as a starter for more than the opening 6 games of next season, though, has it really? How can we be sure of that? If I have to, I would probably just stay with the pick. Maybe I can try and trade back. I don't know if you're allowing me to do that in this scenario. But
do whatever you want, James.
Take the pick, try and trade back, take one of these other quarterbacks in the rookie class later on. But yeah, it's really tough to pay sort of a mid-first for Bryce Young, I think, at the moment.
Yeah, I think it's great advice, because I personally would rather trade all the way back into round 2, middle of round 2, and throw a dart throw at Jalen Milroe. I'd rather die with him on my team than go down with Bryce Young, that at best, what is he, quarterback 16? Probably not going to get any higher than that ever. So yeah, I would do exactly the same thing. Now, Mags, 109. This was your pick as well in the rookie mark. So you picked Caleb Johnson because you like Caleb Johnson, but I'm offering you Xavier Worthy straight up for your pick of 109. Are you taking it?
Oh, I was taking Xavier Worthy. What are you talking about, man? This is the fastest player in the NFL. This is a guy, the only plus about the Eagles Super Bowl loss was Xavier Worthy looked pretty good, didn't he? Like, we know that Andy Reid's system is notoriously difficult for rookies to come in and run. And by the end of the year, Xavier Worthy looked pretty damn good. He's not going to be hyper targeted next year either. We know Hollywood Brown's coming back to the Chiefs. We know Rashee Rice is going to be back up and running. We know Travis Kelce's back too. Xavier Worthy's going to see a lot of one-on-one coverage. I bet Pat Mahomes next year, I think he's going to start launching it a little bit more to Xavier Worthy. Look out. Sneaky wide receiver 1 upside from Xavier Worthy here. Could sneak into that top 12. I'll take him all day.
Yeah, I love that. We'll fly through these next ones. So 110, over to you, James. Again, you just missed out on the championship game last year. Someone offers you DK Metcalf straight up for your 110. Is that a trade that you're interested in? Him obviously now landing in Pittsburgh with catching passes from Aaron Rodgers now, we think, or was over the weekend. Is that something you're interested in?
He's just, again, he's not the player that I want to target with this. It's like, I get the value wise. Like, I understand this is very similar value. Like, what else would you pay and be able to realistically buy a DK Metcalf? I think the move to Pittsburgh and Aaron Rodgers, but you just don't know who Aaron Rodgers is going to pick as his favorite. It's probably not going to be Pickens, to be fair. But yeah, it's really tough for me. I think the 110 last, when we picked Shedeur Sanders here. That might make it even more tricky for me to pick. But I think I would stay with the pick and just hope that whoever I can pick is going to produce more for me, because I just don't see DK Metcalf as a reliable enough weekly starter, and especially in a situation where there's some sort of uncertainty as to who's going to be the quarterback and who's going to be the number 1 target.
Yeah, agreed. I think we spoke about him a couple of weeks ago, and we said he looks great in your lineup, but then he's such a head scratcher for end of the season where you thought, how did I miss out on the playoffs, or why didn't I do so well? And you've got DK Metcalf every week in, week out, disappointing most weeks, look great, some weeks. Very, very frustrating. Mags, I had to ask you this one because I know James's answer to this one, but 111, you're on a contender, so you lost in the championship game last year. Someone offers you Terry McLaurin, who was obviously great last year, but an older wide receiver. Would he be someone that you would happily trade the 111 away to get Terry McLaurin?
No. Oh, no. Oh, he's just too old. He's just too old. If I'm going to play this game of old guys, I'm just going to take the old running backs. Like, something happens to wide receivers when they turn 30, they just, like, things start popping. I don't know what happens for whatever reason. As soon as a wide receiver turns 30, everything starts to go downhill rapidly. And he's going to be 30 when the season starts, I think, if not pretty much. So I'll take the pick here. Would have done this 2 years ago happily. Not right now.
How about if you had Jaden Daniels as your quarterback? Would you be happy trading for his number 1 wide receiver?
Ooh, that's a good question. Now, that would change it if I could possibly stack him up with Jaden Daniels. That would kind of lean me a little bit more towards it. But I mean, looking at the kind of player you can get at 111, a guy like Matthew Golden. I mean, who says Matthew Golden doesn't replace Terry McLaurin, right? I mean, we don't know where he's going to end up going. So I'll probably take a guy like Matthew Golden, who's just so much younger than Terry, who has been underrated forever in Dynasty. Can we just say that? Like, he's been a great buy forever, but I think this season might be the end of the time to buy Terry McLaurin for him first. He could have done it years and years and years ago, and you should have, but this might be the line to stop.
Talking of that age cliff, 112, James, you're on a contender. Would Derrick Henry put you over the top as someone that you're happy to trade that pick and say, right, if I get 1 year out of him, then I'm happy with that. Perhaps he wins me the title. It's well going to be worth the 112. But would you risk the 112 for Derrick Henry?
If you told me it'd win me the title, I'd do it.
Pay the 1-1.
Yeah, if I could guarantee that. Again, it's like he is sort of the perfect target for a contender, isn't he? But because whoever's got him, and if they're not contending, then yeah, they are going to look at sort of shopping him off. I feel like you can get him cheaper than a first, but maybe not at this stage. I think at the end of the first, there might be a sort of a running back or someone else that you're kind of happy to take. I just find it tough to pay. How old is Derrick Henry now? He's got to be sort of 33, right? Something like that. It's difficult to pay a first for that. So yeah, if you promise me I'll win the league, if I do it, then yeah, sure.
Yeah, I think
31, Derrick Henry.
Oh, well,
wow.
That changes things.
What a young start. Yeah, I think this is a situation where if perhaps you only had the 112, your next pick was perhaps the 212 or even later, then I'm not quite sure. But if you had, a couple of second rounders, I'd happily pay the 112 for Derrick Henry to if I thought that he was going to put me over the edge. Because I think, bar an injury, I think Derrick Henry is going to give you a top 5 running back season again this year, almost nailed on, just with the amount of touchdowns that he's going to score. So it would be definitely tempting on a contender with the 112. But yeah, there's still some interesting options for rookies. We picked Jackson Dart there at the 112. I think value-wise, the quarterback, if he is picked in the first round, is worth more than a 31-year-old running back. So interesting one there. We've got a couple in round 2. So Mags, we'll start with the 201. You're on a rebuild. Obviously, you had the 101. You've now got the 201. But someone offers you Ricky Pearsall for your 201. Is that a trade that you're interested in?
Yeah, I've said this phrase a few times before. A second round pick is a third round pick with lipstick on. Honestly, they're really like the amount of deals I've got done by throwing in a second, just laughing my ass off at the person who demanded it. But like, yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be real tough to get rid of this second round pick that has a 20% hit rate historically. Like, yeah, sure. Go ahead and take it. I'll take Ricky Pearsall all day, every day here because he's got a real chance to shine in an ascending, or he's ascending in this offense, not an ascending offense. I don't think so, but he's certainly ascending. Yeah, I'll take the guy that I trust. And I mean, we pick someone we don't even know is going to play receiver, so that makes it a bit easier.
Yeah, take that lipstick and pucker up Ricky because I would definitely take the 201 with that pick. James going slightly later, so 205, getting on for a mid-second round pick. If you're a contender, would you pay the 205 to acquire Devontae Adams on your team?
I think, yeah, for me, pretty easily. I think I would. If I'm a contender, a mid-second, like Max kind of just said, you could end up getting literally anyone that, you don't have a clue if they're going to ever be a viable fantasy starter in the second round. I think we had Trey Harris at this pick, and I think you're certainly not going to be starting in with any sort of confidence for much of the first season. And Devontae Adams, with that move to the Rams, I think you can be sort of much more confident in him playing him in your lineups. So yeah, I think pretty easily for me, I'll take Adams here.
Yeah, agreed. I would pay any second round pick if I'm a contender for Devontae Adams for a couple of seasons. Going a bit further back, Mags, 209. So this situation is a tight end premium league, and you are looking for a tight end to be your tight end one. Would you trade the 209 for David Njoku?
Yeah, he's like, it's again, these second round picks mean almost nothing. Like, to me, you go again. Even look at last year. I didn't know who the 209 was last year. I guarantee they're not very good. If you go back and look at even last year's draft, who was going at 2-9? I don't know. I couldn't tell you who was who was that guy. I'd take David Njoku over them, though. I'm pretty willing to say that.
Yeah, it's probably someone like Jalen Wright or one of these guys that, again, didn't do anything but we thought landing in Miami would be great and he would take off. So, yeah, I would definitely. I'm a big fan of David Njoku, always have been. So I think that's a great price to pay. And then finishing off, James, we have mentioned this guy earlier, but if someone offered you Stephon Diggs for your 212, would you be taking that on a contender?
On a contender, it's probably worth Diggs, is it? It's difficult again. I think, as again, you have to think about it. As a contender, who are you getting at that 212? And I think Max has obviously been saying this the whole way throughout, but the second round picks, certainly at the end of the second round, you just, how comfortable are you going to be starting those guys? Who they end up going to be? Yeah, you just don't, there's no confidence there. So Diggs, we don't really know for him either. When's he going to be back? When's he going to be fit? Maybe the Patriots take a receiver that they're going to in the first round or second round. But I think I would just take the veteran here in Diggs and hope that sort of he can sort of be 10 touchdown season guy with Drake May. Hopefully he's back earlier in the season. So yeah, I think I'll go Diggs.
Yeah, I'll put on here. He was the wide receiver 8 before injury last year, wide receiver 15 in points per game. I think you'd be very happy with wide receiver 15 if you traded a late second for him. I can only see him either being really motivated because of that contract. You know, he can earn up to 69 million, but there's not a lot of it's guaranteed. Or he's just going to be stripping off halfway through a game, throwing his cleats into the crowd, and riding off into the sunset. But with that, we have hit the 2-minute warning. So this is submitted Dynasty questions, and there's been some absolute belters this week. So continue to either hit us up, comment on any of our tweets with trade suggestions that you've received or want to send. And yeah, we'll start with the first one. So this is a 10-team Dynasty League Superflex. We've got CD Lamb or JSN plus the 107. Mags, I'll fire it over to you. CD Lamb for JSN plus the 107. Which side of that Dynasty trade are you on?
Yeah, good deal. 10-man league changes a bit. For me, in a 10-man league, you just want to gather as many as your top players as you can. Don't be afraid to overpay for them either, because the draft picks are even less valuable in a 10-man league. Everyone's team stacked. It is a race just to become more stacked than everybody else. So just give me the star CD Lamb here. Although good offer.
Yeah, James, would you be on the side of CD Lamb, sort of more what you know, or do you like JSN enough to move off him?
Yeah, I'm with Max. Yeah, CD, just that top sort of, maybe not so much now. He might have dropped a couple of places, but wasn't that long ago he was sort of that conversation for wide receiver 1 ahead of Jamar Chase. So as long as we have a healthy quarterback in Dallas, maybe he'll get back to that. And I don't see a scenario where JSN or whoever I'm picking at 107 is going to get close enough that it would change my mind.
Yeah, I'm in complete agreement. I think there's not enough people talking about CD in that same category as Malik Neighbors. The other two may be slightly ahead of him, but how about that guy on Twitter a couple of weeks ago that was he had a couple of sources that inside the Browns that they were making a trade for Dak Prescott. That's kind of gone rather quiet, which was always going to be the case. But we'll move on to the second trade. So this is slightly bigger. This is a 12-team Dynasty League, Superflex, start 9. There's no tight end premium in this league. There is a tight end involved in this trade. So Rashee Rice plus Sam Laporta, or Puka Nacua and the star tight end from last year, Jonnu Smith. So Rashee Rice and Sam Laporta, or Puka and Jonnu Smith. James, where do you stand on that trade?
I'm probably just taking the side that has the best asset, and that's the Puka side for me. I think Rashee Rice, when he's back on the field and he can get close to Puka's value, say the start of last season before the injury, he was certainly on the way there. I'm just not a big enough fan of Sam Laporta for him to close the gap over Jonnu Smith. So I'll just be taking the side with Puka on it, as I see him as the best asset.
And Mags, I see you nodding your head. Are you in agreement with that one?
Puka Nacua is so good. The Rams got rid of Cooper Kupp. Like that, this guy is really. We spoke about it a few months ago, Ali, and I had him at the time. It was maybe talked about a push or a reach to have him in top 5 wide receivers. I don't think that's the case anymore. I think most people have him up there. Yeah, you got to take the Puka side. Jonnu Smith, he outscored Sam Laporta anyway last year. Like you're getting better players. Like
yeah. Second half of the season, he was the tight end 1, I believe, down the stretch. So I think there's replaceable tight end value from Sam Laporta. He's not. Unless he's the Sam Laporta he was from his rookie season, which I don't think you're going to get. I think you're going to get somewhere in between his rookie season and year 2. I think it's replaceable value. And Jonnu Smith in the same offense can, maybe not repeat, but be certainly a top 8 tight end this year.
Yep.
Next trade. So 12-team Dynasty League. This is a 1 quarterback league. PPR format. I've got CD Lamb again being traded away a lot, plus Rome Odunze or Brian Thomas Jr. and the 102. Come to you first, Mags. What side of this trade are you on?
Man, I love me some Brian Thomas, but not that much. Like CD Lamb still ranked ahead of Brian Thomas for me. Rome Odunze, we've spoke about how much of a fan I am of him. Again, look, I get to put CD Lamb in my lineup. Big smile on my face. Brian Thomas, I'm also happy, obviously, but CD Lamb is such an elite difference maker. He's a league winner on his own. Brian Thomas is very, very good, but he's not quite at that league winner level yet. And the 102, you're getting a really nice extra piece. But I just believe in collecting as many league winners as possible. And I know it is a 12-team league, but I'll still just take CD Lamb and put him in my lineup and just be happy about it.
Yeah, James, do you think CD Lamb's being slightly undervalued this offseason and perhaps in this trade as well?
It feels that way based on how the last sort of half an hour discussion has gone. You get on with Mags at CD Lamb. I think you said this is a 1 QB league, right? Yeah. So the second pick is definitely a running back. So yeah, if you're like a really running back heavy team and you love, running back needy team and you love the running back 2, it's probably obviously Martin Hampton. Then you can sell yourself the story that Brian Thomas is going to be closer to CD Lamb's value by the end of the season. Rome Odunze had a disappointing rookie season, but yeah, that's kind of you selling yourself on that story, and it's not necessarily what I think is going to happen. So yeah, CD for me.
Yeah, I think this person must be really, really high on Brian Thomas, which he had a really weird season because with Trevor Lawrence, he was okay. He wasn't great. It wasn't really until Mac Jones took over that he really broke out, and he was absolutely flying as a top 5 wide receiver in the second half of the season. So give me CD side on that one. Again, a different format, Dynasty Superflex. This is a 14-team league, so bigger. Devontae Adams, Terry McLaurin, 212 and a 27 second, or Rome Odunze, Joe Mixon, and the 2027 fabled first round pick. James, which side of the trade are you on here? Because there's a bit more to break down, and with it being a larger format as well.
I'm just going to walk myself through it now. So I see Terry and Adunze are about the same value. It depends on obviously what you're looking for. Obviously, Terry's, just like Mag said, a much more short-term asset. Adunze is obviously rookie, second year, hoping that he can improve on his rookie season. Davante Adams, Joe Mixon, kind of similar assets as well, aren't they? You're not really going to see them much more than a couple of years. And then you've got one side has got a first round on it, and the other's got a late second and another second in it. So probably for me, it'd be the side that has the first. It's a 14-team league, so that could be the pick 13 or 14, which is basically a second. So it's no different to that 27 second. But I'd take the risk that if I'm sending away Davante Adams and Terry McLaurin to this team, that by 27, maybe they're not at their peak, and that first round pick ends up being not quite that late. So I'll take the side with the first on it.
Max?
Let me tell you something about this 2027 draft class, Ali.
Oh, please do. I love hearing about it.
I think it might be the greatest draft class of all time. And I'm really not trying to be too, hype up too much. But boy, Jeremiah Smith, Ryan Williams, and Arch Manning alone, that's three, what we consider right now, elite prospects. And that's just right now. These guys are only going to get better. You've got guys like DJ Lagway at Florida. You've got Lenore Sellers as well out there. There are so many amazing prospects just waiting to come out in 2027. Obviously, it's hard to predict, but man, I'm looking at that team, and if they're not looking great, I'm taking as many 2027 shots as I can. I've got some middle of the road teams right now. I'm just like, I'm blowing it up. Because I just want to have so much fun with this draft class where I'm blowing it up. I'm having fun. Give me the side with the 2027 first. Plus, I get Rome Odunze, who I'm expecting to come up. I might even sell Joe Mixon just to make sure I'm bad and I get a better pick in 27.
Yeah, it's a bit of a weird trade because you've got two older assets on the top side in Devontae and McLaurin. You've also got one on the bottom side along with a younger asset and a pick. So if it was me, get rid of Joe Mixon and the 2 seconds on the other side. If it was Davante Adams, Terry McLaurin, Rome Odunze, and 27 first, that would easily be the bottom side for me, just value-wise for Rome and the 27 first. Obviously, if you're a contender, trading for Adams and McLaurin, who I think could be really, really good, top 10 wide receivers, perhaps top 15 this year, that also makes sense to me. But lads, we're going to end with a dynasty question that I saw on my timeline today. This is a straight up one. Thought it was really interesting. They got me thinking. The question was, if you were a rebuilding team, which of these wide receivers would you attempt to buy? So 3 guys interesting. You've got Brandon Ayuk, you've got Jalen Waddle, and you've got Addison. For the Vikings, Jordan Addison, forgot his first name then. Which of these wide receivers, I'm not going to say have you got ranked higher, so this is specifically for a rebuilder. Which of these wide receivers would you look to buy? I'm going to come to you first, Mags. You've got obviously Brandon Ayuk, who I think because he's on the 49ers today, I think that means that he's getting paid some money in 2026. I think so. It's unlikely that he gets traded now. Obviously, Jalen Waddle, disappointing year. And then you've got Jordan Addison, sort of the wide receiver 2 on the Vikings. Which of these 3 would you be targeting?
Not Addison. I think I'm ruling out Addison immediately. And that's my first thought. I think Ayuk is the probable guy that you want if you want to be less risky. But man, Jalen Waddle might be the best bang for your buck buy you can get right now. Jalen Waddle is so damn good. I don't know what happened last year, But we've seen they could get Johnny Smith open, and bless him, we talked about him earlier, but Jalen Waddle's a better player than Johnny Smith. We don't know what's going to happen with Tyreek Hill. He's been chatting about wanting to get traded, blah, blah, blah. If I'm McCarthy over there, I want to start funneling some targets towards Jalen Waddle, start running the offense through him. He might be the best bang for your buck rebuild buy you can get right now. So, yeah, give me some Jalen Waddle for a rebuilder here.
Mm-hmm. James, which of these three takes your fancy? Are you also leaning Waddle, or do you think Ayuk's got a higher ceiling, or perhaps even Jordan Anderson?
Yeah, I'm going to be boring and agree with Mags again. I think if we're talking values the same, if I'm paying the same for them, it's definitely Waddle. But it's not that much of a conversation. If it's, I'm paying a fair value, but which one am I actually going to go and pay that value for? It'd still be Waddle, because it's just Addison's always going to be stuck behind Jefferson. 49ers, there isn't, Debo there anymore, but there's so much other competition. And yeah, Waddle, obviously, he's got Tyreek Hill there. He's had a really disappointing year or two, but Tyreek Hill's not going to be there that long. Waddle's going to be the number one guy. He's just got the upside, and he was picked much higher in the draft. When he was drafted, wasn't he, in comparison to these guys? I just would take him, unless, you're a real rebuilder and you want Ayuk, because you're not going to have to play him because he's going to be injured for half the season, and that's going to earn you a better draft pick. And you can get him for much cheaper than Waddle. Then, yeah, Waddle's the guy for me, really.
Yeah, I think that's a great answer, because I think probably the asking price of these three isn't all going to be the same. As you mentioned, Brandon Ayuk, he's probably not going to be there until later on next season with the horrific injury that he had. And the fact that he was really poor in 2024 anyway, so he's not necessarily even going to come back and just be a stud like he has been. I'm going to bank on Jalen Waddle, who really did hurt me last year. I took him in a ton of places, redraft and Dynasty. But I think with the likes of Tyreek Hill, being Tyreek Hill, definitely wanting away from there. Jalen Waddle's going to be the man, and he's got more room and more scope to increase his value than the other two. So with that, that's the end of tonight's show, and thank you for tuning in. Be sure to follow us and subscribe on X and YouTube. Give us a like, give us a comment about any of our thoughts on tonight's pick. Would you have gone for the rookies, all the veterans that were offered up? And yeah, join us for our show every single Tuesday over on Twitter and on YouTube. Thank you once again. And remember, when you have the wild card, you have the power to change the game.